That's good. everybody, and welcome back to First Ring Daily. I'm Brad, there's Paul, and we also got a little added bonus content for you here. We're going to bring in Jesse, who is an IT manager of NetHealth. Unfortunately, he lives in Pittsburgh, home of the Steelers, and I'm a Bengals fan, and we got, typical Sunday fashion, got embarrassed. But, yeah, so we got Jesse here. How's it going, Jesse?
It's going pretty well. On a rainy rainy day, but yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, we got that rain yesterday. Unfortunately, I think you're in between Paul and I. There's probably some way we can draw a line. So your weather coming up, as I like to tell Paul, is it's going to be raining probably most of the day, and tomorrow it's going to be overcast and very cold. So not much.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yep. So Jesse, what brings you here today? I'm curious what makes you want to stop by the studio. Actually, before we even go there, I think you might be the first third-party guest we've ever done like this. Does that sound about right, Paul?
Yeah. Certainly it's the first time we've had three people on at the same time. Right? Right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Which basically means everybody knock on wood that nothing falls apart.
Sure. And no pressure, Jesse, but, be funny.
Oh, yeah, right?
Paul jests, but people quite literally say, I hope they're going to be funny today, as if that's...
It's like a comedian goes up on the stage and somebody yells, be funny.
But seriously, though, Jesse, what brings you here?
Yeah, so at NetHealth, we are a software company. So we provide EHR solutions for specialized outpatient care. And we're in like 3,000 facilities across the country. And our IT department obviously spends a lot of time supporting our customers. And as a result, we've kind of, for the past couple of years, pushed aside our employee support quite a bit. Earlier this year, we kicked off a project called, which I named pretty poorly, but I named it Make the Office IT Environment Great Again. And we decided one of our biggest areas that we were lacking in was getting new machines out the door. So we're a growing company. We hire a lot of employees, but we also have to replace machines pretty often, especially for our development teams. And we would buy machines, and we were, you get the machine in, and it's manually install everything, run 3 billion Windows updates on them. It just took forever to get machines out the door. And in some cases, for our employees that, existing employees, we were up to a year behind schedule in getting them a new machine. And so they'd get pretty angry with us. They would ask us for a new machine, and a year later you'd get that email like, hey, am I ever going to get this machine? So we started looking around for an imaging solution. I did not want to go down the SCCM path with Microsoft, knowing it's just a juggernaut, and we had no one with experience on the team with that solution. And we looked at a couple other software solutions for imaging, and they were tied to hardware. They didn't seem that great. And we kind of gave up on it. We just decided we'll get SCCM. I was going to go ask our executive team for buckets of cash to throw at a consultant to come in and configure it for us so it would be set up right. But then one day, I saw a random ad from a company called Smart Deploy that said you could do imaging based off of VM. And I'm an IT geek, so I have VMware Workstation on my machine. I have a bunch of VMs, testing out various Windows servers and Windows 10 and everything. So I downloaded Smart Deploy. I imaged a couple machines I just took right out of the box with a couple VMs I had running on my machine. And it worked really well. And after I got a quote from their sales team, I wasn't going to have to ask the executive team for buckets of cash to throw at a consultant. It was easy to set up. It was way cheaper than SCCM. And we've been focusing around that product now for most of this year and getting new machines out the door for our staff. We've seen a huge reduction in the times to get the machines out. So it's been a great product for us.
Very, very cool. How many machines are you working with over there?
So right now we have about 300 employees. I would say this year we've probably imaged over 100 machines, which is way more than we've done in years past. I think in past years we were hitting like 20 or 30. So it's a huge improvement.
I'm curious just because I evaluated the software recently, and I was also really impressed by the VM aspect of it and the ability to kind of build out different deployment images based on machine type or user group on the same machine type, that kind of thing. I mean, how many different image types do you maintain? And what? Yeah, I mean, what does that look like? I mean, so 300 or 100 to 300 users, but what are the how complex is it? I guess.
So for us, we've limited it to just 2 right now. We're going to expand that this year at some point. But a big win for us was building an image for our development team. And so it was as easy as spinning up a VM, allowing a developer to get on and install Visual Studio and JetBrains packages and things like that. Yeah. So we have that image for development, and then we have a generic image for all other employees right now. So it's just 2. We're going to expand it. I think there's 3 more we were planning on making.
Okay. And is it all the same hardware? The target hardware is always the same, or is it different types of PCs?
No, so we're mostly laptops. However, we have been buying Surfaces as well. So we have Surface Pro 3, Pro 4. We have a Surface Book, a few of those actually, and the latest Surface Pro generation. And then Dell changes their laptop hardware pretty often, it seems, on us. So we've got a variety of Dell Latitudes and the Precision line floating around our offices.
Great. Okay, so it kind of sustains across these different hardware platforms then really well.
Yeah, the great thing with Smart Deploy is they have their platform packs. And so I was a little worried when I got the latest Surface Pro when it came out. And I didn't know if they would have the platform pack, as they call it, that has all the drivers for the hardware. But as soon as I got it in, it was already available to download for us. And so any model that we've had so far, they've had a platform pack for all the drivers available.
Yeah, I had gotten a new HP. It's actually like a 2-in-1 type computer, but I was thinking the same thing. Would I have to manually figure out, get the drivers, embed them in a package somehow myself, and actually basically the next day they were there. So it was pretty impressive as well.
Very cool stuff. Jesse, is there anything else about Smart Deploy you want to talk about? Because then I got some actual personal questions while we got you here.
That's a personal question. Pittsburgh specifically.
Yeah, right. You want to talk about the Steelers and the Penguins, right? Sidney Crosby. No, I guess the only other thing to mention with Smart Deploy is, for me, it was just so easy to set up. Anyone on our staff can manage it. Their GUI is laid out that gives you step-by-step what you need to do. And they have these answer files. You can do a lot with them. We're pretty generic with it. We just join the machine to the domain and specify what OU to dump computers into based on what office a user is in. But you can do post-deployment tasks if you have things that you need to run once the user profile is set up. And like I said before, we would tell our business to 10 business days to get a new machine out the door. And right now, the image takes about 20 minutes, and then we say like another hour to get the user profile set up. So it's 10 days down to a couple hours for us.
That's fantastic.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Jesse, what smartphone do you use?
I have, I've got a Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. The battery lasts 2 hours. I really need to replace it.
And then what's your personal computer?
My personal computer? Well, I have this Surface Pro from work, so I use that a lot. I do have like a Dell XPS desktop at home also. And a Raspberry Pi for my kids so they can play old school Nintendo games.
Paul, that's a computer, not a pastry, by the way.
Yeah, I've had 2 of them so far, Brad. Thank you.
How many calories?
I'm curious why this line of questioning.
I don't know. I'm just always curious to see what other people are using. Obviously, Paul, you and I just kind of swap things around because I actually completely overhauled how this podcast is happening on my end because, as we like to say, Paul, when things are working well, let's make them work not well.
Let's stick a stick in there. Yep.
I was really just curious to see what actually, what are people really using? And so that was kind of where it's heading. Anything else you want to let us know, Jesse, before we let you go?
No, I mean, I think that was about it. Smart Deploy is a great product, and it's really helped us in our IT department here at NetHealth.
Gotcha. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you?
Ooh.
Steelersfan.com/Jesse.
Oh, man, that's a good question. Don't want to give out email addresses. I do have a very generic Twitter handle that I just made. I think it's called Real Sys Admin.
There you go.
Let me look, I think that's it. Yeah, Real Sys Admin. I tweet nothing good. I did tweet Paul Thurrott once, and he ignored me, so I deleted it because I was ashamed.
I do that to Brad every day. So actually, it's really not a bad strategy if you think of it.
Perfect. Well, absolutely appreciate you stopping by, Jesse. And I guess we'll move on here, Paul.
Alrighty. Thanks.
Thanks.
Paul.
Yep. Look what you have. It's Call of Duty Day.
It is. It is. And how excited are you?
Well, let me tell you, Brad. I've stormed the beach. I've gone into the foxholes. I've cleared a farm of cannons. I rode on the back of a truck and I shot a bunch of Nazis. It's been a good day. Do you hear a hissing sound? I didn't use the flamethrower.
A flamethrower.
I've used a sniper rifle.
There's many things to talk about related to Xbox, and if you don't like Xbox, you could probably, to be honest, just turn things off now.
Yeah, you're done here.
Yeah, because the rest of the show is all Xbox goodness because there's a lot going on. So I really like the game. I need to get a little more acclimated to it because my all-time favorite gun in the history of guns and in the history of the world is probably the M1 Garand, and it is in this glorious game. You know, you get 5 shots and it goes ting, and then a little quick.
Exactly. When the bullet runs out, when the bullets run out, and you have to reload, the last shot is like ching. You know, it's like that metallic clank sound. You know,
it's wonderful. It is. Yeah. They reproduced it very well in this game. My problem with this game, and it's not like this is quote unquote like problems, is that a lot of the maps are very small and dense, and for a single shot weapon, you're definitely at a disadvantage. So there's certain maps where you can stand the perimeter and use it, and it's just fine. But it seems to me, unless you have a differing opinion, I've only played multiplayer. I've not touched the campaign at all. Is that SMGs are definitely kind of ruling the roost right now.
Yeah, I have done a mix of both single and multiplayer, and yeah, multiplayer, I actually prefer the same gun. The one thing I did learn very quickly is that once you start leveling up, you can add to the gun. You know, you can put scopes on there and you know, recoil fixers and things like that, and that actually helps dramatically because the game you must have saw this and were probably confused by it because I certainly was. But the first time you play multiplayer, you just get thrown into a team deathmatch game. Yep. And I'm like, what is this? I never even chose the game type, and I'm like, please tell me it's not like this. But once you go through that, then you get to choose the game type, and you can start customizing your weapon and so forth. So it's going to be a long day, Brad. That's what I'm thinking. Yep.
It is. So far, liking it. We'll see how long I stick with it. But the initial out of the gate it's pretty well done. Not perfect by any means, but no game is. And there was something I was going to tell you. Paul, have you tried the war game mode yet?
Yeah, well, I tried that during the beta, so I haven't tried it yet again today. But yes, it's pretty good. Basically, it's you know, a team on offense, team on defense. You push forward to objectives. If you can push the other team back to the last objective, side switch, and you're on the opposite side. So it's kind of a nice. In fact, it's arguably the opposite of PUBG, right? Like it just keeps going and going and going. Like, you know, you don't die once and leave. It's a big game.
Yeah, it's really nice, especially that game mode, because if you are familiar with World War II, which many people are, the storming the beach of Normandy, you actually get to do that. And while you can do that in video games, like in this time, you actually get to play against other people on the other side in the gun turrets, and it's a lot of fun. That was a nice surprise and really well done.
Could you have done a better job than Rommel of defending the beach? You can find out.
Good stuff. Good stuff. If you haven't checked that out, the game is now available. $60. It is at minimum a 53 gigabyte download. So do not tether it to your phone and try to do this, and be prepared to kind of wait unless you have a super fancy high-speed connection.
Yeah. I don't have to tell Call of Duty fans this, but in a way, but if you are a Call of Duty fan, honestly, one of the biggest delights of this game is you have to have the Seasons Pass to get it. It's the Carrington map, right? Which is the classic map from the original Call of Duty. It was in the single-player campaign on the original PC version of Call of Duty. It was based on, well, real-life Carrington from World War II, but as envisioned in the TV series Band of Brothers. And you can go back, you look up Band of Brothers Carrington on YouTube, you can see the exact thing. You go, come over the hill, come down to the town, there's a sniper, or actually a machine gun nest up in the window. And the map is just like that. And so in Call of Duty early days, like they turned that into a multiplayer map. They did a remake of it in Modern Warfare called Chinatown, which is actually pretty terrible. It's like a night map, and it doesn't really look anything like it, but the layout's kind of the same. And they've redone it for this game, and so for now you have to have a season pass to get this map. But it's awesome. And I was telling my wife, and I've been meaning to write something about this for a long time. Like, my memories of this place are as real as any memories I have of any real place. Like when you start a new game like this, you don't know the maps, so you have to figure out a lot of different things: how the guns work, what guns are better for this, what things are better for this. But you also have to figure out the maps, right? You're lost. You spend the whole time lost. So the beginning of the game, you're running around in circles trying to figure out where everything is. Going into this map was so awesome because I'm like, I know this place. I know, and everything is exactly where it should be. And it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. It really is. Yes, it is. I'll see how long it takes me to prestige. I'm not sure how I feel so much about the new social space thing that they kind of dropped in. That's very Destiny-like, although it's not as implemented as well as Destiny. So that's, I don't, mixed opinions on that.
Right. So, yeah. I'm going to agree with you on that one. I haven't figured it out 100%. I find it odd that this is a weird little area where I can walk around and watch movies and buy stuff at a store and talk to people. And it's kind of a weird, I don't know, but it's okay. The game looks great.
Yep. Speaking of looking great, and I'm not talking about you, Paul, how's the Xbox One X now that we can finally talk about it?
Yeah.
Tell us
more. Also looking great. I guess that's the other thing that happened today. It's kind of funny. I was literally, we could post our review starting at 3 a.m. Eastern today. So I actually went into our CMS. I don't really like doing this, but I didn't want to get up at 3. So I configured it to automatically post at the right time, which worked. I know that sounds like a basic thing, but I've been stung by this in the past. I wanted to post some videos, and I posted a couple of them. I've got some gameplay videos I'll be posting later, but I didn't really know how to. You can't really schedule those on YouTube. You know what I mean? So I didn't have that stuff ready at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I've been posting those since. Slightly distracted by Call of Duty. The Xbox One X is amazing, and it's amazing on a number of different levels, right? So first of all, it's an Xbox One, right? And I know it sounds obvious and basic, but I mean, literally, the user experience is exactly the same as using any Xbox One. The software is the same, the interface is the same, the controller is literally the same. And it's a little disarming in that way because, you think about it, this thing's it's $500 and you're like, this is exactly like the thing I already have. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that when you go into a game, it looks awesome, like way better than it did on the Xbox One S in virtually every case. And what I mean by that is that even games that haven't been specifically enhanced yet still often look a lot better. Halo 3 is an incredible example. Like, this is an Xbox 360 game. It serves as an amazing reminder of how good those first 3 games were. I mean, I remember being fairly obsessed by these games. I played the single player campaign of Halo 3 through at least a couple of times. Like, I really, really liked that game. And you see it now, and it's all bright and vibrant and kind of, it's gorgeous. Like, it looks gorgeous, which is ironic in a way because the original release of Halo 3 was marred at the time because they were screwing around with the display resolution to maintain the frame rate, and they got in a little bit of trouble because it was like, you're saying that this is like a 1080p console or whatever, and this thing's running at I don't remember the res, but it's some kind of weird down res. And now you can kind of see it in all its glory, and it's beautiful. Like, it looks like they've remastered it. Like, it's incredible. And then there are the games that are just, incredible because now they're in 4K and HDR. And I think the poster child here on day one is probably Gears of War 4, which is an okay game. I think it's a little derivative of the original 4 games or whatever they were before. I guess 3.5 games, depending on how you look at it. But as kind of reimagined here, if you will, in full 4K res and HDR, or you can switch on a mode where it's in, it will actually run at 60 frames a second and use dynamic resolution, right? So depending on how many things are going on the screen, you can actually, it will down tune it on the fly, but maintain that 60 frames a second. It's just like this beautiful game. And the problem for me is that when you take screenshots, they're 4K, so you can kind of see them, but they don't have that kind of vibrant HDR quality. There's a way on the console to display screenshots in HDR and they look better, but for some reason I download them to the PC and they look fine, but they don't really kind of transmit how awesome they are. And you can only record 30-second videos in 4K. I've been doing 1080p so far, but I haven't found a way to kind of capture how amazing everything looks. And so there are games that have some Project Scorpio assets, some that are fully transformed with 4K and or HDR. But it almost doesn't matter. Like everything just looks amazing. And there's just no downside to this. I mean, other than the cost, obviously, but
other than $500.
Yes. I mean, right. So where you are in life kind of depends on whether or not you want to get this thing. I mean, if you have that 4K HDR set, it's like you're going to want to get this thing. If you did not buy an Xbox One S already, because frankly, I've been playing, I played that console in the 1080p set in here, kind of went back and forth. Since the X has been out on the 4K set, I've been switching between the S and the X, and the S, of course, is attached to the 1080p set. And honestly, it's kind of neat how good games look regardless. But when you get it out on the 4K console, it's just another level. And I think at the beginning of the show you were listening to your Surface because you were like, is this making a hissing sound, right? I am super sensitive to that kind of sound. And so whether it's a Surface or another PC sitting here next to me hissing away, the NUC I've had has done that, or any computer kind of thing, whatever it is. We just got a TiVo in the living room, and the TiVo, it's just sitting there not being used, and it makes a humming sound. It's like there's some hard drive, something in there that's making a sound. My wife can't hear it, but I sit there and I'm like, that drives me crazy. I hate it. And the Xbox One X does not make that kind of sound. Like it's not loud in any way, shape, or form. I've played hours at a time, jumped up, listened to it, nothing, go back, play for another, for a while. And I keep waiting to hear, it'd be reasonable if you think of like play 4K games for a couple hours, turn off the console, and it would sit there and hiss for a little while. PCs do that. It's fine. It would be as expected, but it doesn't do that. So there's some kind of alien technology going on here that I don't quite understand. It is really impressive.
Yeah. So we will see. The one thing that makes me nervous, and I'm sure Microsoft tested this about 1 billion times because I think that's how much it cost them last time, is they're probably making sure that it's sufficiently cooled, even though you're not really hearing the fans run.
Well, but that's part of the magic of it, right? So the Xbox One, Xbox 360, which had that problem, had a massive exterior power supply. The original Xbox One, which was a huge tank of a device, had a humongous external power supply. And then they went to the Xbox One S, the white version of the console, much smaller machine, no external power supply, it's just a cord. And so you're like, well, it's a 4K machine. Like I would give them that, a huge power brick. It doesn't have one. It's just like the Xbox One S. It just uses a standard power cord. So not only is that power brick-ish part in the box somewhere, the box itself is still smaller than any Xbox they've ever made. And I know that's how technology goes, kind of, but it's still pretty impressive coming as soon after the Xbox One S as this does. Yeah.
So we will see how that plays out over its life cycle. But so far, based on your review and basically everybody else's review, it's off to a pretty good start.
And I was so nervous about that because over the course of the past week or so, I've had such positive experiences with this thing. And, I experienced great self-doubt. I don't know if that's obvious to people, but, I I'm thinking like, because I'm not, it's not like I'm some shallow Microsoft promoter, like I would point out whatever the problems were. I mean, I mentioned the controller's cheap and plasticky, which it is. But I'm like, am I missing something? Like, what is going on here? Like, this thing's awesome. And so this morning when I did finally get up, I did check around. I haven't read through all of them in total, but I read parts of a few reviews. I wanted to see what people said about the sound of the fans in particular. But, whether or not my contention that like the 4K era has in fact finally arrived after being, faked last year with the PlayStation Pro. And not to my amazement per se, but I mean, I'm a little surprised. It's been universally positive. Like everyone is basically saying the same thing. Like, this is the real deal. Like they really pulled this thing off.
Wow, this thing is
unlike, say, the original Surface Book, which has its problems.
Yeah, so this is it was installing 1709 as I was using it. Well, it's still installing, I guess. But I mean, man, this thing is.
So the last time I saw you, I don't know why I can't remember when this was, but you may recall that the computer I had would not run Markdown Pad. Remember that issue I was having? Yeah, it was New York because my wife eventually came to New York and I had to bring another laptop. I was having some kind of a weird problem. Mm-hmm. But what computer was that? Was that a Surface Book?
That or a Lenovo? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, I think it was a Lenovo because I'm having that exact same problem on Surface Book now. So I also just installed 1709 in Surface Book from scratch. Went back and I'm having two issues. The first one is a lot of my UWP apps. It happens with the Store app a lot. It happens with the Xbox app. It happens with all of them, but those are the kind of the ones I run a lot. It launches in a blank window with the app logo in the a blank screen. Sorry, with the app logo in the middle and just the color of the app filling the window, and then the app never fills in. And so I close it and rerun it. And you've seen this, all right? So then the app works.
Well, mine's a little more efficient. Mine just crashes.
Okay. Well, so I've never experienced this before, but I have this problem on the Surface Book. But then last night I had it out by the Xbox. I was working on the review. And I went to run Markdown Pad and it wouldn't load again. And I'm like, oh my God, like here we go again. Like what's going on? So I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but not good.
Well, we will figure it out. Two things to note before we get to the comments here. Paul has already ordered a Bengals Xbox One controller. You can now do that if you would like to use an NFL team, the little design lab thing. Yep.
I would be more likely to order a controller that was based on the band the Bengals than I would to get one based on the NFL team the Bengals. So I don't think so.
Paul, put between a rock and a hard place, would you rather have a Bengals controller or a Steelers controller?
Yikes. Okay, actually, in that case, I would become a Cincinnati fan. Yes, that's.
There we go. I rest my case. And one other quick note, I haven't done this yet. I posted some pictures because I was repairing, once again, my Elite controller. Last time, the right rubber pad fell off. This time, the left one did. So I glued it back together, and somebody from Microsoft sent me a message and said, hey, if you actually call Microsoft, they will replace it. I think it might have been a policy. Yeah.
That thing came right. It's gone. Like one side is just shiny and smooth and not with the grippy awesomeness of the other side. Yep. Wounded warrior.
Yeah. So if you can use Gorilla Glue to put that back on, or if you give them a call, they might just send you a new one.
I just want them to make a new one that's based on the new controller.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a new one would be better than this one. That's for sure.
Yep. So, all right, we're going to get to some of the comments and highlights from the week because this one struck near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Because
I'm afraid.
Paul, this has the perfect amount of sarcasm that I think this individual might fit in with us. So, this post or this comment comes from a post that I made about Andromeda, and his name is Mac Liam. He says, I carry a gene for novelty seeking and early adoption, so I'm I'm constitutionally powerless to resist any kind of new thing. Anyways, I have been expecting something like this for a year. He's referring to the Andromeda dual screen device. He says, I'll buy one, not necessarily because I will have been persuaded that it is designed to serve my needs, but mostly to see how I can make it work for me, whether the MS designers envisioned a complete potential or not. I don't care if it turns out to be a commercial failure for the company. I just want to see them sell at least a few times so that I can replace it several times under warranty.
Okay. So I shouldn't ruin this, but so often I start these articles and they never come to fruition. So I'll at least get this dad joke out of the way now, which is that I have an article that I'm writing called The Andromeda Strain. And it's basically about this very topic, like this notion that there are these Windows/Microsoft enthusiasts who have been burnt like 117 times in a row. And then they hear about this potential new device and they just spring back up like nothing wrong has ever happened. And they can't wait to go buy one of these things. And it's like, guys, you gotta think this thing through. I mean, I just, I feel kind of bad. I mean, that no one has gotten the message yet, you know. And by the way, if this device does happen, I have to think it's going to be custom made for businesses and for specific business scenarios. You know, it's not quite a vertical device, but almost. I mean, try to think through, like, what's the point of this thing? Like, what would you? It's like, I want a device that's small enough to write on, like I'm going to take notes, and I could also use it to read stuff on, I guess, because it's kind of like a book. But it's going to be running Windows 10, sort of. You know, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I don't know. Like, I guess I would just, again, without ruining the total article, when you think back to the original and very specious justification for the first iPad, which was, you know, we have this laptop thing over here and we have this phone thing over there. Is there room for something in the middle? And then you have to ask yourself, what was the point of even making something for the middle? Was this something that people needed, or was this something you're just doing because you can do? That's all.
I'm going to reread his last sentence because I butchered it, because it is perfect. He says, I just want them to sell it for at least the length of time it takes me to order one, receive it, and maybe replace it a couple times under warranty. That is a true Microsoft fan at heart.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, right. That was what I heard you say. So yes.
Yeah.
Right, like a Microsoft band. In other words, it just has to be around long enough. Or the Xbox 360 with the red ring of death.
Mm-hmm. Or the early Surface Books.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And you know what's going to happen, because we mentioned that, we're going to get an email from someone who says, you know, I'm still using a Surface RT and I don't understand what the problem is. It works fine.
The next one comes from, it's on a Paul's post where he says, this is your next phone. And it's from CompuNut. He says, this trend is a problem. And the trend he's referring to are these just phones that have no bezels, essentially. Very similar to the iPhone X, the Essential phone, the new Samsung Galaxies. He says, I like practical devices. I think the non-display area on the new Pixel phone to put front-facing speakers is a good idea. I like having a bit of border around the screen so that I can hold the device without tapping on the screen. I wish they would make phones thicker so they had decent battery life. I really don't understand everyone's obsession with making devices as pretty at the expense of usability.
So actually, I'm going to disagree with that 100%. I do think there's a push toward devices that can be too thin at the sacrifice of battery life, right? And the way you see that in devices is when they stop allowing you to remove the battery, like Samsung devices did over the past couple of years. You know, my wife's Note 5 or whatever it was, you could pop off the back, put it in a battery. If you wanted to add like a flip case to it, you actually took the back off and put the flip case on. And now with the new phones, they're sealed shut, which helps maximize the thinness. And then if you want that kind of a case, it clips on and adds to the thickness. And so it's kind of a weird trade-off there. But as far as, like, you know, the notion that I like a little bit of space around the outside or whatever, I mean, that's kind of a subjective thing that maybe could change over time. When you can maximize the amount of screen on the size of a device, that is a huge benefit. You know, like I mean, I'll hold up my iPhone just because it's old-fashioned looking. You know, this thing with its old-fashioned, geez, it's kind of hard to see, but, you know, it's got a big chin and a forehead like Frankenstein here. If you could fit the same size screen, if this thing was just the screen, that device is like almost 2 inches less tall and about half an inch less wide. And now it's more portable. It's more, you know, it fits in your pocket. You don't have to worry about bending it as much. You know, there are actually huge benefits to that. Or if you're comfortable with this size device, now instead of a, whatever this is, 5.5 inch screen or whatever, it can be like a 6.3 inch screen. And it could be thinner from left to right, meaning that you can actually use it one-handed, which is something that's impossible to do on this kind of device. So I think I just would, you know, don't be so quick to dismiss something just because it's new. There's a reason that PC makers, starting with Dell, are going to near bezel-less displays on laptops. And there's a reason they're doing it on phones, which was kind of my point, which is that Apple, when they, remember, like a pre-iPhone, the screen was this, that was the entire screen. The bottom half was all keyboard, right? So the central innovation, or one of the central innovations of the iPhone, was let's make that screen really big, and let's make it the primary interface. Let's get rid of the keyboard. I think that this new literal all screen front is the next version of that. And you can see it, and that was the point of the article, because literally every major cell phone or smartphone maker on earth is adopting this design right now. It's not just because it's trendy, it's because it's literally better for most people in most cases.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can understand why people want bezels. The thing that kept jumping into my mind is the palm rejection stuff that the Surface does when you place your hand on it. And I would assume, or at least hope, that at some point these screens will start including that kind of technology, saying, okay, they're holding near the bezel. It's been more than 2 seconds. We shouldn't recognize that as an input, or something probably smarter than that, but along those lines.
Sure.
So, Paul, I know you're squirming in your seat to go play more of this. So you got anything else?
You are the only thing standing between me and the rest of Normandy, yes.
Well, me and approximately, 60, 70 years of time.
Yeah, well, right. Well, let's not quibble over the details. The point is, those hedgerows aren't going to clear themselves.
I mean, this is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, that's pretty much my day in a nutshell. How about you?
No, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this Ryzen machine, because I need to get that replaced, or at least out of my office. And then the weather's going to be a little iffy this weekend. No, I haven't golfed in a while, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So I don't know. It's probably just going to be this, to be honest. You know what? That's it.
You know what I have this weekend, Brad? There's an event locally called Bacon Fest. It's kind of a celebration of pork and the animal that creates it, if I understand it. I've not been yet, but it sounds awesome.
It sounds like cardiac arrest, but yes, we will. We'll climb that molehill when the time is right. So, with that, everybody, this episode was brought to you by Smart Deploy. Check them out at the beginning of the episode, Device Driver Magic. That's what they do, smartdeploy.com/Thurrott. And as a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday through Friday, and you can catch it right on Thurrott.com, and have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Yeah.
Do you follow are you friends with my wife on Facebook?
No. But anything you get tagged in, though, I see, though.
Yeah, no. Well, she went out for a run this morning, and it was so awesome looking. Like, she took a bunch of pictures. It was one of those foggy, sun is coming up kind of things. How can I share this? I don't really have a way to share it. It's kind of weird. Oh well, it was cool looking today.
That's a great story. Then did she find $5?
Well, they really, if you could kind of picture the fog, and then there's a little bridge, and the sun's coming up,